You see, you embody what most people have yet to be able to give up in their lives. You are manifesting certain things in your life that people cannot manifest because you understand that manifestation is not just about wishing things into existence. It's about actually putting in the work and the effort to show God that you actually want what you say you want and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And you see, a lot of the normies out here are going to find you enigmatic, and they're going to see you as an enigma because you do embody these things. You embody the discipline, the fortitude of mind, and everything else that is involved with following God's laws, statutes, and commandments. And they're going to want you gone. Some of these people are going to want to delete you. And I don't say that just to say that, because I've literally had people within the past few years that, my life was not necessarily fully in jeopardy, but my livelihood was. Now, what do I mean by that is that there were certain women in the past that tried to get me arrested because I rejected them. And these were normie women that didn't really know anything about the spirituality side of things. And then you had the men where I placed boundaries with women and their man, quote unquote, because it's not really that, like, dude, you think that's your girl? She's everybody's girl, man. And I'm not trying to be rude here, but it's just the facts. And so then they confront you and, they threaten to beat you up or to kick your ass or to throw you somewhere where the sun don't shine. And you're just thinking to yourself, man, I did you a favor. Like I showed, like I put down boundaries, and now she's trying to play the victim here. And you see, that's what a lot of these normies have done. They've played the victim for so long that they don't even know what it means to actually take responsibility for their life and to do things. Like, they're really good at making it seem like they're in the world and they're working hard and they're doing this, they're doing that, but they're all stressed out. And they're all doing things like, I could be in the worst position possible. In fact, I have been in the worst position possible for myself, that is. Like, I've hit rock bottom before. I know what that's like. When you don't have a pot to piss in and you don't have food, like, it's a rough go. You don't really have friends. You don't have anybody that you can talk to. The only person you can talk to is God. And those moments, those days where you are at your lowest are going to give you certain perspectives of life that grant you the ability and the wisdom and the fortitude to take responsibility for your life. And if you don't, well, obviously you wouldn't be here. So if you've done this or something like this, then you know what it's like, and you know how this kind of stuff happens. And you know that sometimes you won't have anybody to rely on. And most people that have gone through the fire, a lot of the men especially, that have gone through the fire, they are now loners for the most part. And other men are going to be the worst when it comes to this kind of thing sometimes. Like, I've had men get super hyper envious and jealous of me when they seemingly have the world at their fingertips. They've got the corporate job, they've got a wife, they've got a family. I don't have any of that kind of stuff. Like, at the time, I didn't have any of that kind of stuff. And yet they were hating on me. And I just didn't understand. I didn't understand. I was like, man, what do I have that you don't? I don't get it. Like, I don't understand what you think that I have. But I can assure you, brother, I don't have shit. Like, at the time, I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything to do with anything. And it was a rough go. But you know what I did have? I always had myself. And it's not like I put myself as like, oh, I had my ego, or oh, I had something like this or something like that inside myself. I could believe in myself, and there's nothing wrong with you believing in yourself. But it was, I had myself and my communion with the Most High. I had myself and I had communion with the universe as a whole. I, at the time when this was happening, I wasn't following Christ. And I wasn't really in a position to where I could understand what exactly was happening with my reality. I couldn't understand exactly what exactly it is that people were up to. I didn't know why people were doing the things that they were doing, but I always stayed focused on myself. Like I would just notice these things about people. I would feel the energy of the room. I would feel the energy of everything around me. And I would just kind of notice it, but I wouldn't be too worried about it. I was never really jealous or envious because I always thought in my mind, if those people have these things, oh wow, well they probably worked for it. They probably got a lot for it. Like, because I wasn't necessarily raised in a luxurious environment, okay, by any stretch of the imagination. And it wasn't until like I was in high school when my family and we finally kind of got our feet on the ground, and I was working when I was 16. Immediately when I was 16, maybe I started even putting in applications when I was 15. But as soon as I was 16 in my state, in Utah, where I'm from, I was putting in applications to work. I was doing everything I could to make sure that I was going to be knowing what it's like to help put food on the table. Because I thought at the time, like, that's what I was supposed to be doing. And, looking back in hindsight, it kind of was. But even then, I had people, I was a server at IHOP. That was my first job. I was a server at IHOP, and I couldn't believe some of the ways that these people would treat other people. Not just myself, but other servers, other like bussers, and even the cooks. Like there were times when people would be like, "We need to talk to your cook. Like we need to talk to him. This steak is not cooked." Like, and it's like IHOP. Like, who gets a steak at IHOP? Number one, but like, it was just it was just kind of funny. Like they were acting as if they should be getting this steakhouse steak and all of that, and the steak was cooked well, but they ate half of it before talking about anything that's wrong with it. So, and that happened when I was working at Denny's too. I was working at IHOP and Denny's at one point. I had two part-time jobs during the summers of my 16 and 17 year old life. And when I was working at both of those places, man, I just couldn't believe some of the ways that people would treat other people, and even myself. Like, there was this one guy who, I had my name tag, obviously, right? The very first thing this guy says to me, and this guy was a bit older, and I could tell he's a bit lonely. Even when I was 16, 17, I could still feel the energy of certain people. I didn't have the vocabulary to really articulate what was going on with these people exactly, but I knew energy-wise what was happening. And so now in retrospect, I could see that this person was actually just kind of lonely, and he was an older guy that obviously didn't live the way that he wanted to live. And so he looked at my name and he's like, what kind of name is Thaddeus? Because at the time, I was still like, I was actually going by the name of Tad, and I don't like that anymore. Like, I don't care if people call me Tad that I knew from those day and ages. Like, but if I say like my name is Thaddeus, I expect you to call me Thaddeus. I don't expect like I don't like these like nicknames and such that people come up with and all of that. And Tad was just something that was just, it felt childish for a long time, and I just accepted it because that's what everybody called me. But as soon as I got to be like 23, 24, I started to realize, you know what? I want to be more professional for sure, like in my personal life, not just my professional life. So, but anyway, that's a bit of a side note, but I had my name tag Thaddeus, and this guy was like, "What kind of name is Thaddeus?" Like, That's how you're gonna open the conversation. Like and in my head I thought, oh boy, this guy's gonna be fun. And I just said, oh, it's just my name. My parents gave it to me. What can I get you to drink, sir? Like, we got some orange juice. We've got this, extra, but And he's like, you don't know what kind of name it is. And he's like stuck on trying to like get me to talk about my name. And I'm like, yeah, that's my name. And I could tell that there was just this envy, this jealousness about it. And he just, yeah, he was just fired up for no reason, like over my name. So this was one of the first times that I really started to get a glimpse of the real world and what real people were like, not just inside my family unit and my extended family. I didn't know, like, because this was just confirming that most people are like this. Most people are just jealous, envious people. And at the time, I just didn't get it. I didn't understand what was going on. And even then, I knew that I had some kind of bigger purpose. I didn't know what it was, but I always had this sense of belief in myself. And even when I was 17, 18 years old, I was going into college at the time. So I was maybe late 17, early 18, but I started to get a little bit suicidal at the time. And I haven't been suicidal at all since, but I ended up writing like a death note at one point. And because I just didn't understand why so many people like were so upset with me. There were so many people that seemed to love me and so many people that seemed to hate me. But all the people that seemed to love me seemed fake. But I kept buying into it because I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be a part of something. I wanted to be just something that more of what exactly I thought life could be and was. I wanted more. And these people would tell me all of these great stories about, where they're going and how they're going to get there and all that. And so I kept buying into it, especially in my college years, And I bought a lot of some things that people said because I wanted to believe that people were better than they really are. And it's not like this isn't trying to bash people kind of video. It's just that it is the case that sometimes, most oftentimes, you don't need to have any expectations of people. And my failure was having expectations of people. But my expectations were people are naturally good and they're naturally going to try to do the right thing. I found out the very hard way that that is not the case. People are often neutral and they work for their own self-benefit, more often than not. It doesn't mean that it's like evil necessarily, but a lot of the times people are selfish. And so even when you are just doing who you are that kind of, like, because I've turned into a silent person more often than not outside. The pain has had a purpose for me. All of the pain of my past has had a purpose. And I'm just giving like some few examples here, nothing crazy, but just little examples to kind of incrementally build off of the voluptuousness of these people. They're so vain oftentimes. And so I would say the most lethal aspect about accepting the premise that people are naturally self-serving is that you have to accept that that's in many ways like you as well. And even if you want to believe that you're giving and giving and giving, sometimes it's because you want to neglect yourself. And that's exactly what I did. I was trying to give so much of myself away so that I didn't have to look at the internalities and the internals of my life. And when I realized that I could actually reflect, I could look at these internalities, I could look at the internals. That was when I was about 22, when I really started to have that spiritual spiritual awakening altogether. And I started to become more cold to the world. I started to become a little bit more reserved, more so than usual. And now that I'm 28, I'm an enigma to most people, and I'm sure most people, if they can relate to any of this, you're an enigma as well. And it's all because you're focusing on yourself. You know that to be selfish is not actually a bad thing. To be selfish and to serve only yourself are two different things in my perspective. To be selfish means to be as if you are yourself. But to be self-serving means to obviously be self-serving, to only do things in order to see what benefits it grants you. But oftentimes when people are selfish, in the perspective that I just referred to, people are oftentimes more compassionate, they're more giving, and they open their hearts a little bit more. And so now I'm to the point to where I have my heart completely open, but I know exactly who's worth my time. And these people that are going to try to bring you down and put you down, no matter what kind of stage of life you're in, even if you're like kind of on the down low and people are still hating on you because you just have something inside you that they don't, like, take that as a compliment and take that as something that you can work with for your life. Take that as inspiration, honestly, because that means that there is something more within you that people don't want to admit is really there. And they don't like it because it actually is there. So wear it like a badge of honor. Wear the hate like a badge of honor and let the hate be your fuel. Because these people are weirdos out here, man. Most of these people are weirdos. But anyways, guys, I hope this message was useful and insightful. If you do want to join a godly community where we are growing in body, mind, and spirit more and more every day, you can join the free Discord where we have some free resources available as well as the godly community. Or we have the paid community where we meet once a week for a Bible study as well as once a week for a weekly group call. And then there's a bunch of other classes and courses hands-on that you can take where we have meetings with these classes sometimes and go over in more depth about what exactly is going on with these topics at hand. I also want to thank everybody that has been moving from YouTube over to the X and Rumble platform recently. I appreciate your guys' support. And with all that being said, peace be with you all. Till next time.